Hi, I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic. We're going to talk about why you're not closing, the hidden emotional baggage of your buyer and you. If I were to put it in a different way, I'll be talking about why you're not closing, even when everything looks perfect. So, let's set the tone here. Have you ever had a sales call where everything was just going well? You had great chemistry, you understood your customer's problem better than they did. The budget is a match. And they actually said to you, this is exactly what we need. You come back to the office and guess what? They have vanished. They have ghosted you. You didn't lose on price. You didn't lose your competitor. You lost to something you couldn't see, right? And that frustrates you. So today I'm going to show you exactly what it was that you lost to. Hi, I'm Dr. Deepak Bhootra. I'm a sales strategist and founder of Jabulani Consulting. It is my life's goal to work with sales leaders, to work with rock star sellers. These are people that want to win deals. They want to do it without burnout, desperation, or sales gimmicks. In this video, I'm going to explain the real reason your deals are stalling and how to fix it using a skill most salespeople tend to overlook. And that skill is simply understanding emotional intelligence. So let's break it down. What's actually happening when a deal looks great on paper but quietly slips away? This is what's happening. You have a situation where everything that could go right has happened. So on the surface, everything looks kosher, looks great. But something else is happening underneath, and now we're going to get underneath. Buyers aren't always saying what they're feeling. Your deal didn't die on logic, it died on emotion. Think about it. Most salespeople think deals are lost because of logic, but deals rarely fall apart on the spreadsheet. They fall apart in the buyer's head. They're nodding on the call, they agree with the value that you're providing to them, and then silence. What's happening is that they're not making a strategic decision, they're making an emotional one. They will justify that emotion with tremendous logic later in the process. And under that emotion lies something which is very truthful: fear, doubt, responsibility. What if I get blamed if this fails? What if I back the wrong horse? Hey, what if this opens a can of worms that I'm not ready to handle here? Have I understood the situation very well? These are very simple things that are going in their minds. Call it head crash, call it whatever you want to say. Now, here is the real problem though. Your customer is not going to stand up and look at you in the eye and say, hey, this is what's happening. They can't do that because it's uncomfortable to admit. Because they don't want to look uncertain in front of you. Because admitting fear feels like weakness in most business conversations, right? So instead, they nod, they smile, and they tell you this all makes sense. And then, of course, they disappear. All that nodding, all that smiling. So you got to ask yourself a question: what did I miss here? What exactly happened that led to this? Now, the reality is that if you're only selling logic, you're solving the wrong problem. But if everything looked good, why didn't they move forward? It's not because you missed an obvious red flag. It's because the flag was hidden. You got blindsided, my friend, by emotion, not logic. Your competition didn't do anything. Emotion did it. They had doubts, risks. They had personal stakes engaged in this, involved in this, but they never told you. They kept smiling, they kept nodding, they said it all made sense, and then they ghosted. Because they were feeling something and you didn't create the space for it to come out. Yep, I just made an accusation. You didn't create the space for it to come out. Not because you aren't good, but because you're human. And in that moment, so are they. So here's the part most sellers don't realize. Your pressure makes that silence louder. You need the win. You're confident on the outside, but inside you're hoping this one lands because guess what? Your boss just told you you're at 93%. You got to do something. Now, even when you think it's subtle, that something is being very quiet under the surface, it shows up. It doesn't show up. Your angst doesn't show up in a very pushy way because you work very hard, right? You're a professional. It shows up in a way that you're trying to rush to the next slide. It shows up in the way you try to prove by just being a little too hard on yourself. You're pushing, you're working too hard. You miss a moment that needed a pause. That's emotional friction, my friend. And it's the real reason good deals disappear. So here are a couple of ideas for you to think about. These are what I call shifts. Start by naming the fear. And this is a very internal thing. Before every call, ask yourself, what am I afraid of in this deal? What would I say if I had nothing to prove? How would I show up if I didn't need the outcome? Powerful. These questions aren't just mindset tricks. They sound like mindset tricks, but they're not. They're actually ingrained in psychology. Now, when you are thinking about this, you're being honest with yourself. And what that honesty does is it ensures that your energy doesn't betray you. Because when you don't acknowledge your fear, it shows up anyway. It'll show up in your tone, it shows up in your pacing, in the way you try to control the moment. For me, it used to show up in my fingers, very twitchy, very nervous. But when you name it, you own it. And when you accept it, it no longer controls you. That's the shift from subconscious pressure to grounded presence. And that's what your buyer feels. Create safety, not pressure, is another idea. Ask real and simple questions like, What feels risky about this for you? What would make this a no-go internally? Negative framing. If this fails, what happens at your end? These are not discovery questions, these are invitations. Because when someone, your customer that is, feels they can say the hard thing without being judged or pushed, they will say the hard things. And when they feel safe, they get honest. And when your customer is honest, that's when deals move forward. Give them the language that works. Sometimes your buyer isn't stuck because they disagree, they're stuck because they don't know how to explain what's holding them back. Name it for them. Try something like this. Sometimes it's not the solution, it's internal politics. This might feel like a lot of change all at once. Or how about this one? You're taking the lead on something that carries weight. That's not small. Ask, you will hear them talk back to you. And when you make your customers seen, they feel safe. And when they feel safe, they say yes. Let me wrap this up. If you want to understand emotional clarity in the sales process, understand what we just went through and discussed. Make sure that if you want to follow up with me, and if you want to understand how emotions are stalling your pipeline, hey, book a call. Let's have a conversation. I also recommend that you binge out on all the other videos I have, but let's come back to the topic. Remember, people don't buy because you close them. They buy because they feel safe choosing you. Lead the room with clarity. Speak to that hidden fear and become the seller they trust, not because you pushed, but because you understood. I really hope you got the message. Take care. Bye bye.